So welcome everyone. I am Janine Miaton, the events programming manager. Gosh, I forgot what I do. The events programming manager here at Meetup. And we have a special treat for y'all today. We have special guest, Jillian Richardson. She is joining us for an interactive workshop where you will learn necessary skills to foster a deeper sense of connection with yourself and with others. I'm super excited. I've had the opportunity to get to know Jillian the past few months, so y'all are in good hands. Jillian's going to kick it off with the meditation, then she's going to share her life story, and then she's going to talk about how you can cultivate your spirituality and find a supportive community. But before we get started and I introduce Jillian to you, I am going to go over some housekeeping rules. Okay, so the video, sorry, Jillian, you're making me nervous. So this event is recorded, but you will not appear on video. The camera is turned off for everyone. You can only see the speakers, which is Jillian and myself, although I will be going off the screen in a little bit. Everyone is muted, so if you're trying to turn your, if you're trying to talk or say something, sorry, the mute button isn't broken, it's just courtesy. Also, if you have questions, which we encourage you to ask your questions, please submit them in the Q&A feature. You can find the button at the bottom of your screen. And thanks to Zoom, we have closed captioning. So if you want to turn on the live transcription, just hover over the live transcription button that's at the bottom of your screen, and the closed captioning will pop up. Same, if you want to turn off the closed captioning, you can also do the same thing, and you can turn it off there. Okay, I'm really not doing well with the slides today. Okay. So I just gave a little bit of an intro to the event. I'm going to introduce Jillian in a few seconds. After that, Jillian is going to take over with her solo presentation, and then we are going to do Q&A. I'm going to ask Jillian the questions that y'all submit in the Q&A feature. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, if I can do that. Okay, so it's my pleasure to introduce Jillian to everyone. She is the author of The Unlonely Planet, a guide to creating a strong sense of community. She's also the creator of The Joy List, a weekly newsletter of events and tools that help people create more connection in their life. When Jillian's not facilitating workshops like today, or coaching one-on-one sessions, you can find Jillian studying as a community minister at Judson. Did I say that correctly? Judson Memorial Church, and taking to every dog she meets. So I read this, Jillian, and I just wanted to say that Otis is a little offended that you haven't asked to meet him. Even though you've seen him numerous times on screen, you have not asked to meet him in person. Just saying. Otis said it, not me. So without further ado, I'm going to go off screen and Jillian is going to take it away.
All right. Hi, y'all. This is so funny because I imagined I would be able to see all of your faces. So I cannot see you, which I think on the one hand will hopefully permission us to be a little bit bigger. Feel free to stretch, feel free to yawn as I'm talking. I recently learned from a teacher named Harry Pickens that yawning calms your nervous system down. So feel free, and I'll remind us as we're going to continue to just move our bodies a little bit and just relax, because we're sitting in front of our computers so often, and it's nice to be able to just remember we are humans with bodies outside of our Zoom screen. Even like life exists outside of this box, which is pretty wild. So in the chat, before we get started and before I dive in, I would love to see and hear how y'all are feeling, just like in a word or two, what your mood is right now, because we're coming from all sorts of places. I'm seeing the first word I saw was ennui. beautiful vocab word. We're coming from work, we're coming from being with our children, we're coming from talking to our partners. I'm seeing isolated, depressive, exhausted, tired, meh, and also peaceful, calm, languishing. I'm loving these descriptive words. And I feel really excited for all of you to be here. This is far and away the biggest Zoom conversation I have ever had. So I apologize for not being able to honor all of your responses and know that they are seen. And if you are feeling like I'm seeing isolated, sad, you are not alone. And hopefully by the end of this hour, we will be collectively feeling a little bit better. And we'll do a temperature check at the end as well. So sending everybody in the chat love. I think that the chat, we're going to be closing it for now. And as I go through the presentation, you'll hear that I'm going to be opening the chat again for another prompt so that we can all stay engaged, stay interacted, because there's nothing worse than just hearing someone talk at you. I want to make sure that all of your voices are heard and you're interacting with each other. So with that in mind, to bring a little more presence to the space, I'm just going to invite us to take 3 deep breaths together. If you would like, you can close your eyes. You can also have a soft gaze in front of you. And what I like to do is I like to have a hand on my lower belly and a hand on my chest. And what we'll do is we will breathe into our stomach, up into our chest, hold for a moment, and then exhale. So we'll do that 3 times, feeling yourself in your seat, breathing into your stomach, up into your chest, holding it, letting it out. Feel free to make sound or wiggle. We can't see or hear you, so it's totally okay. Breathing into your belly, up into your chest, holding, let it out. And one more, breathing into your belly, up into your chest, holding it, letting it out. And if you would like, you can even give yourself a little hug for giving yourself this time today. And we'll get started. I am so honored to be speaking with all of you today. And we are here today to talk about loneliness. As Janine said, my name is Jillian Richardson, and my mission is to make the world a less lonely place. And a lot of people ask me, kind of first question is, why are you so interested in loneliness? What is it about your life history that has you interested in loneliness in the first place? And the most honest answer, it's something that's a little vulnerable to share, and I imagine a lot of you will resonate with this, is I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family. And this is a story of a lot of people. If you've been in any sort of therapy or 12-step group, you know that the rule of a dysfunctional family in a dysfunctional culture is don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. I'll say that one more time. It's don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. And what that means is we don't talk about our feelings, we don't trust our feelings, and we don't feel our feelings. And that really takes a toll on your mental health. And it took a toll on my mental health. And what that looked like for me growing up was I had an eating disorder. I was anorexic for 8 years of my life. I was a big overachiever. my schedule from morning until night completely booked for probably a decade. And I did not have a sense of who I was to myself. I didn't have a connection to my body. And I didn't feel connected to the people around me or my community at large. And what happened when I graduated from college and moved to New York City was I decided I just needed something better. I needed to find community. I moved to New York City, and there was a moment, the first night I was in New York City, I was supposed to see a friend. I was really excited. I got ready. I got the perfect outfit. I had the great makeup. I was feeling myself, looking really good. And I never heard from my friend. He just forgot that we were supposed to spend time together. And it was like my stomach was filled with concrete. And I had this feeling of, I am in a new place. I don't know anybody here. What am I going to do? And I made a promise to myself, I'm not going to do this anymore. I need a new way. And so I committed to meeting new people. I had what I call a not Amish Rumspringa, if you know the term Rumspringa, when a young person just kind of has full permission to go wild and try everything. I went to festivals on my own. I went to events on my own. I met a ton of different types of people. And eventually, I found really loving community. And I found people who I felt safe around. And I wanted to share these communities with people. So in 2016, I started a newsletter called The Joy List of events that New Yorkers can go to on their own and leave with a new friend. And what happened next was really interesting because I made a public project about loneliness, and people kind of associated me with loneliness. So folks would come up to me and they would share secrets that they had not told anyone. Like I was a walking confessional that they felt like they didn't have any friends, and they felt embarrassed and ashamed that they didn't know how to connect with people. Or they got a divorce and they lost their friends and they weren't sure what to do. And I realized that I thought I felt alone, or I felt alone in this experience of loneliness. And it turns out most people around me felt that way. I got obsessed with the concept of loneliness. I wrote a book called Unlonely Planet that was published in July of 2019. And through that process, I found out, first of all, that the average American has one close friend, and 75% of Americans are not satisfied with their friendships. So you have one close friend, and most people don't even like that one friend. Clearly, something is wrong. And to top that off, loneliness has an impact on our physical health. If you had health class growing up, you were probably told that you need to exercise, healthy food is important for you, all of these things, to not smoke, to not binge drink. And yet, the importance of close relationships was not something that was focused on, when actually loneliness impacts your health just as much as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, being an excessive drinker, or being obese. The toll on your immune system and nervous system is as much as 7 years off of your life. And as I saw from people saying in the chat already, acknowledging we are in such an interesting transitional time where we're going back to our social circles in a lot of countries now post-vaccine. We are going to be around people again. And that can feel kind of awkward. You might feel nervous. I know I do. And so for the rest of this presentation, I'm going to talk about 3 different ways that we can intentionally create deep and meaningful connection in our lives. And again, as I'm speaking, please feel free to submit questions so that you don't forget them. You can submit them on Zoom the second you think about them. And before I get into the first topic, we're just going to do another quick quick stretch and breathe break, because I know talking about loneliness can bring up some big feelings, and we just want our bodies to feel as stress-free as possible so we can actually remember what we're learning right now. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, and at the end of this, we'll open the chat so we can reflect a little bit, is to get curious about the people around us. Because I coach people one-on-one, and I do group coaching as well. And what I hear people say a lot is that they're bored of the people around them. They feel like they've said everything there is to say. There's no new interesting conversations. And the problem with that is that really quality conversations come from quality questions. And I'll say that one more time. That's a lot of cues. Quality questions come from quality conversations. And an example of this is I was sitting with my roommates. They're people I've been living with for 4 years, people who I feel like I know almost everything about them. And somebody asked for some reason, like, oh, what were your grandparents like? And suddenly we were having an entirely new conversation about who our grandparents are, what we learned from them, the countries that our families immigrated from, culture, like cultural traditions from those countries. And it was an entirely new world that we hadn't thought about before. And so just quickly, and we can open the chat, is to think about what is a question that you would love to ask someone. Like, what is a question that you would love to discuss with others? And I'm gonna do this a few more times in the presentation. And the goal with this is that you'll leave this with a few things that you can do this week to connect more with the people you already have in your life. And this could be in person or virtually. I'm seeing, what did you want to be when you were young? If you had 24 hours, what would you do? What music do you recommend? Do you want to swim to the moon? Great. What did you learn about yourself during COVID? What was your life like growing up? If you could choose one career that's not the one you're in, what would it be? What's the story you want to tell about yourself? What happens after you die? So clearly, these questions are going to just keep flowing. Everyone here that I'm seeing has a really good sense of what conversations would be interesting to have. And so my challenge to all of you is, if you're feeling stuck in conversation with someone, you're just like, God, I've been stuck with this person for a year, I cannot possibly talk to them anymore. Remember these questions. There are so many conversations we haven't had. A resource that I recommend is this website called Askhole. It's like asshole, but with a K. A little bit edgy, but they're really funny, kind of inappropriate questions that you guaranteed have never thought of before. They're kind of strange. And so if you're with someone who's a little closer, or you're on a date or something like that, those are fun questions to pull out. I also recommend the card game called We're Not Really Strangers, which is essentially questions that deepen in intimacy as you go. So we can close the chat again for a moment. And just two more things around getting curious about other people is to listen. So first, obviously, you're going to ask a quality question. And then you're going to listen to the person you're talking to, which might sound really obvious, like, duh, of course I'm going to listen. Yet, usually when we're in conversation with someone, we're kind of doing parallel monologues where one person is talking, they're saying what they think. While that person is talking, the other person is just thinking about what they're going to say next, and then just sharing what they think. And that's why so many conversations do not feel nourishing, is because both of the people are not actually curious about the person that's in front of them. I recently completed a 6-month coaching certification program. And something I realized about myself was even when I was asking someone a question, I was trying to kind of like pad it with extra stuff to make me sound smart, or to kind of include my opinion in the question. And that actually the most powerful way to ask someone a question is just ask the question. Ask a short, simple question. Some examples of that could be, what do you want? What are you afraid of? What's holding you back? What happens next? Just quick question and see what they say. And I've employed this in my conversations with friends and really noticed an increase of depth in the conversation, because I wasn't worrying about how I sounded. I wasn't worried about sounding interesting. I was interested in what they had to say. And the last thing on this, when you are in connection with people, is to think about what your personal boundaries are. And I smile with this one because this one is the hardest for people to think about, including myself, to notice, okay, when I'm in connection with this person, do I feel drained or energized by their presence? We're having a conversation afterwards. Do I feel better about myself or do I feel worse about myself? And if this is someone that you voluntarily have in your life, like a friend, not a boss or a family member, or someone like that that you can't control, you really need to question, is this someone that I want to keep voluntarily in my life? Do I want to have people in my life who drain me? Because you can only have so many friends in your close circle. And you deserve to have people in your life who uplift you and nourish you instead of taking away your precious energy. And so I won't ask people to put this in the chat because that's a little this is a little personal, but I invite you to just take a moment to think, and this is also something you can journal on afterwards, of the people who are in your inner circle in your life. Are they serving you? And also on the flip side, are you serving them? Are you lifting up the friends in your life and nourishing them and treating them with love and kindness? That's a much longer conversation, but something that I'll just drop the seed of now. And so next, we're going to talk about going inwards. And for this, just to start, we can open the chat one more time. Chat's just popping in and out. Shout out to the moderators for dealing with this with me. And the question, and you can just say yes or no, we'll just get a sense in the chat, is have you ever compared yourself to somebody on social media? It's so wild to have hundreds of people in here because there's no way I can keep up, but we're seeing a mixed bag of yeses and nos. The yeses seem very emphatic, of like, hell yes, of course. Is this a real question? Always, all the time. And it's so interesting. You can also see some people saying, why would I do that? And so for those of us who do compare ourselves to people on social media, see, there is another option. There are people in the chat who are saying, like, what is the point of that? Okay, so we can close the chat again. Sorry if you didn't get to answer the question. We're moving speedy. We have a lot of content to cover. So with social media, we can compare ourselves to other people when we are more focused on the external world than our internal world. And I am guilty of this. I can see things on social media and think to myself, oh, I wish I could do that thing, or, oh, their life is better than mine, whatever. In one sense, it can be a gift because we can see, oh, what is it about somebody's life that I admire? What is it that I don't have in my life that I would like? And on that side, that could be a gift. But on the other hand, we might be consuming social media, looking at the lives of other people because we do not want to look at our own lives, and we do not want to do the difficult work, sometimes can be difficult work, of going inwards and checking in with ourselves. So I'm going to share 3 ways that we can go inwards with ourselves. And I realize up front that a lot of people have very difficult relationships with religion. And so all of the things that I share are outside of religion. This is your personal connection to you, yourself. And if you believe in a higher power or spirit, feel free to use that language. I will use the word prayer and the word meditation. Feel free to swap that out with any language that is right for you. And so the first way that I recommend to go inwards is to pray. And this can be a very edgy thing to say, especially in a non-religious circle. I consider myself spiritual, not religious. And in the past 2 years, I've discovered the practice of prayer because I didn't really grow up in a religious background. And I actually, it was very random. I got featured in an article in the Wall Street Journal about prayer, and being interviewed by this journalist helped me realize how important it actually is. And she was very thorough. She interviewed me for like 2 hours about why I believe in prayer, what it is, all of this stuff. And so what I do, and you can see this if you're a Wall Street Journal person, hilariously, I'm in there for some reason. What I do, because I live in New York City, is I take my iPhone and I plug in my headphones and I go for a walk. I pretend that I'm on the phone with somebody. I am not. I talk to myself and I start to pray out loud. And I just see what pops up. And so, for example, if I was to do this right now, I might say, may I have the courage to deliver this speech to these beautiful people with love and with presence. May I remember that my voice is something that matters. May I be of service. May I say what needs to be said, and may they hear what they need to hear. Like, may I get out of the way so that you can come through me. And I mean, even just me saying that right now, I feel a little more easeful. And I say this just as a reminder that you can pray in whatever way you want. You can journal, you can write voice notes, or you could be like me, like a weirdo, and pray and pretend you're on a phone conversation. Because in New York City, nobody cares what you're doing. So that is an option. A second way, and this is something that I got from the author Elizabeth Gilbert, is to write a letter from your higher self to yourself. And so an example of that would be you might take your journal. I got my journal right here, and write a question that you want an answer to. And again, this is all with the goal of connecting more with yourself. You could write the question, what do I need to know about changing jobs, for example? And then instead of writing from your kind of first person perspective, imagine that you are writing from the most loving, selfless, kind part of yourself to you. And what's really interesting for me is it always sounds different than my regular voice. And it helps me kind of soften and be more compassionate to myself. It's something that I believe for myself, I'm channeling something else. And for somebody else, you might just say, I'm just accessing a different part of my brain. Both are great. This is another great way to take a pause and get to know yourself. Because I've noticed in my own life, I feel the most disconnected when I'm in conversation with others and when I'm in community, when I do not have enough time to go inwards and be with myself. And so the last thing before I open up the chat again, or our lovely moderators open up the chat again, is to just incorporate more silence and meditation into your life. And Again, the word meditation might have a very certain connotation. You might imagine a meditation being sitting cross-legged on a pillow with incense and like idols around you. That does not have to be what meditation is for you. If that is what you love, rock on, do your thing. And my form of meditation is I like to go to the park by my house. I like to sit on a log and look at ducks. That's what I do. I just sit, I listen to birds, I feel the wind on my skin, and I just feel present. Because our lives can be so chaotic that it's really important to just have some moments to settle, like let all of this debris from our days come down and just create some equanimity in our lives. So, with the idea of more action steps for everyone here, I would love for us to open the chat again and think about what is a question that you would like to ask your higher self this week. This might be a more personal one, so feel free to just write it down for yourself. But I'm curious to see what people might want to write about. And I'll say it one more time. What question would you like to ask your higher self this week? Oh, Amy, so connect to that one. How do I transition from being alone to having more stimulus? I'm asking myself that question. Who am I ready to let go of? How do I become a better friend? What am I scared of? How can I be more at peace? What are my gifts? When will I believe myself? How do I get back to a social life? What have I learned from the pandemic? How do I let joy into my life? And I feel like almost teary looking at these questions, because I know for myself, I can feel so stuck in my own individual perception of my problems, and I'm the only person grappling with these big questions. And just looking at the chat, we can see so many people in this group are grappling with these big questions of self-worth and identity and purpose and what we want and love and relationships and all of these things, which is also just a great reminder to be kind to each other, as every person we're encountering is handling all of these things. And I just honor all of these beautifully honest, kind, vulnerable responses in the chat. I thank you all so much. We'll just take a moment to breathe before we go to our last kind of category before we do our Q&A. So again, feel free to stretch, feel free to breathe, yawn, whatever, shake it, do a little dancey dance. And we'll go to our last category. So we did get curious, go inwards. Lastly is giving outwards. And this one is about taking this love that you're cultivating in yourself and giving it to other people. And a practice that I really love and I think is very important is to notice when we are closing to love and practicing opening ourselves up. There's a teacher who I follow named John Wineland. He talks about more kind of romantic relationships, and yet I find his practices kind of just apply to life in general. And he shared one time that anytime he starts to feel closed, meaning like he's feeling judgmental of people, he's feeling cranky, he has these stories that people are bad or people are mean, all of these things, that he reaches out to at least 5 people. He might have even said 10 people, but I'll say 5 because that's less extreme. 5 people, and tell them why he loves them, and send them a voice note or a little note saying why he loves them. And so he's kind of exercising this muscle of openness and love to kind of counterbalance these moments when he's feeling closure in his heart, to say, okay, I'm noticing I'm feeling judgmental. I'm noticing I'm feeling resistance to the people in my life. How can I counter that? And I find that's a really important lesson to remember, including for myself, when I have these thoughts of just like, oh, things aren't going my way, or I'm getting rejected romantically, or I'm not being invited to things, like these loopy thoughts that we can all have, to bring my thoughts to a higher place. Because when I am in a more positive headspace, the world responds to me better. Like, of course, you would rather be with someone who is an effort to get to that place. At least that's what I believe. So that is one thing. The next, and I just got a notification from my computer that my internet was unstable. So let me know if I need to repeat anything. Next is, I call this notes of awesome. And by that, I mean, when I am having a conversation with someone, and we might say something like, oh, I really love it when my friend does this thing. I really love it how she's so kind. I love how much she volunteers, whatever, to send that person a message. I like to use the voice note feature on Facebook and just say, hey, I'm here with this person. We were talking about how much we love this thing you do. And it takes a minute, not even. And I cannot tell you the amount of times I've gotten a response back saying, I was having the worst day, or the worst week, or the worst month. This just made me feel so much better. It feels so good to know that people are talking about me, and that people love me. And so that's a practice that I really love to pay it forwards to others. And last of all is, if you use social media, I know we were just talking about social media a second ago, especially if you have Facebook or Twitter or something where it's easy to tag people. I like doing a practice of, I used to do once a week, shouting out people that I'm grateful for. And what happened was really interesting, where first of all, I got responses from people saying how cleansing it felt to see something positive on social media, to see people shouting each other out and giving each other love. And also, what happened was other people started to do it as well. Other people started to post on their Facebook once a week and shout out people they were grateful to. And it started to spread. And so it's a great reminder that when we give love to somebody, chances are there's going to be a beautiful ripple effect where that person you send a voice note to share why you love them, they're going to send one to somebody else. And that person's going to do it to somebody else. And it kind of just trickles out. And so again, we'll open the chat one last time. And again, this is just to connect with something we can do literally right after this call. I would love to just see in the chat the first name of somebody that you want to send some gratitude to later today. And I'll pause for a moment. We got Rose, Mom, Holly, Francesca, Kevin, Deb, Kathy, Mom, lots of moms in the chat. We love Mom, Susanna, Doug, Mom and Dad, God. Shout out to God. Darlene, Jeannie, my dog. Yes. Joe, women's group members, brother, circle of friends. I love this. So my teen sons, my cat, my bird. Monica, shout out Monica, turned 90. And also I'm seeing some people in the chat saying they've already done it. This is incredible. So actually, if we could keep the chat open for a second, I would love to check in with the group and see, how are you feeling right now? 1 or 2 words. What mood are you in now? And I'll pause. So much better. Comfortable, inspired, encouraged, anxious, calmer, hopeful, content, resonance, better, ease, still some anxious, that's okay. Bliss, happy, lighter, curious, lighter, great, productive, great. Seeing some pissed off. I love that folks are so honest. Some people are like, not great. So for the folks who are in a better headspace, I am not surprised. Also, lots of love to the people who are not feeling connected or good. There is a phrase that I love, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And that means what you tend to focus on impacts your emotional state. And so I'm not surprised that for a chunk of the people here, after 30, 40 minutes of hearing someone talk about love and community and connection, you feel better, because that's what you're putting your focus and energy on. And so that's just something I want you to carry into your week, is to notice, what is it that I'm focusing my energy on? Am I focusing on the things in my life that aren't going well, that aren't going right, the people who I'm pissed at, the stuff that's not good? Or am I focusing on love and being someone who is positive and a positive force for my friends, and sharing gratitude, giving of myself, and kind of doing that workout of, when we feel closed, opening again. And so with that, again, Jillian Richardson, I'm a coach. I wrote a book called Unlonely Planet. I have a newsletter called The Joy List. And now I'm going to open, I think Janine and Cindy are going to share some of the questions that they chose for me to answer. And I just want to say right now, I will not be able to answer everyone's questions. I apologize for that. And I honor all of your vulnerability for the questions that you have asked.
Hi, Jillian, I'm back. Thank you so much for everything that you shared. The one thing that really stuck with me was the awesome notes. I mean, I figured you probably would have guessed that. And, you know, it's something that it stuck with me because oftentimes, like, I think of, you know, like someone pops into my mind who I haven't spoken to in a while or seen in a while, and I get like a memory or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to know how they're doing. But just like the act of like texting and reaching out, like, you know, what do you say? It somehow, like, it just becomes overwhelming. And I'm like, oh, I'll do it another time, and don't do it at all. So I love the idea of just like, you know, doing the voice memo you said, right? Just like really quickly, like, hey, was just thinking about you, or whatever it is. Like, I love that idea because it makes it super easy, and it's so effortless.
Yeah, and exactly what you said, because I hear that question from folks a lot of, I want to reach out to someone, but I'm not sure how, or like, well, I'm not sure what to say. To either just say that you were thinking about them, you're grateful for them, or like if you're going through your phone and you see a photo of you guys at something, or if you just remembered a fun memory that the two of you shared, to just send it to them. Be like, oh my God, I was just thinking about how much I loved it when we went to that concert together. We had so much fun. Just popped into my brain, wanted to say, hey. A really easeful, natural way to reach out to someone.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for that pointer. I'm definitely going to use it. So we have quite a few questions, and I'm going to get started. So Anonymous asked, what are ways to make journaling fun?
Ooh, well, first of all, you don't have to journal if it's not fun. I know it can be so easy to tell ourselves that we should do something. If you feel a lot of resistance to journaling, voice notes might be better for this person. It might be, instead of handwriting something, you could dictate to a Google Doc, like you could do the voice to text feature on a Google Doc. Or if this person does want to journal and have a consistent journaling practice, I really recommend the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It is, I think it's 12 weeks. It's a 12-week journey all about kind of unlocking your creativity, being a more open, vibrant person. And first of all, it's a practice of 3 pages, just free form journaling every day, like just dumping it out. But then also every week there are prompts that you reflect on about like what you were taught as a kid about your creativity, what you want in your life. If you could do anything, what would it be? And it's just a really fun way to learn new things about yourself. So that's my advice for that person.
Thank you. I'm someone who has a love-hate relationship with journaling.
Yeah.
Because like, again, like the thought of like just sitting down and writing, it's like, oh, what am I going to write about?
Mm-hmm.
But I love it. You know, once I sit down and I just start to write about what I'm feeling at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
I always find that so much more comes out, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like when you just read everything afterwards, it's like, wow, so this is why I was feeling this way. And it's like you things start to make sense and you kind of start to put the pieces together yourself of why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, and you kind of feel some relief afterwards, right? And you
Yeah.
feel better. And I also like it because there are also, you can find patterns in your behavior and, you know, your moods, right? By rereading your journals.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a huge fan of journaling. Like I said, love-hate relationship, but huge fan. Okay, more questions. Sorry. All right. Jen wants to know, how do you approach strangers?
Oh, interesting. I'm assuming this person wants to approach strangers for friendship, is my guess. Well, very common advice is to talk to someone based on something that they chose that day. Like to not be like, oh, you have beautiful legs or something like that, that can come off as kind of like creepy. But to say, oh, I love your shirt. Like, oh, those flowers are so pretty. Where did you get that shirt from? Or wow, your shoes are so cool. Like, what's the story behind those? Because clothes are something we choose, and they're usually something that we are proud of. We have a story around, and that's a really safe way to approach someone where they don't feel like they're being sexualized. And also, I found that if I'm with another friend, especially as a woman, I find it much easier to interact with the strangers around me. I feel a lot safer, and I feel a little more playful. And so I would just test out noticing like, oh, how easy does it feel for me to talk to a stranger when I'm on my own versus when I'm with a friend? And my guess is when you're with a friend, it becomes a little easier to kind of like chat with people. And a challenge I would offer to anyone is next time you're in a park, because we're coming on summertime, outdoor picnics, and you're with a friend or something like that, or even if you're on your own, just start chatting with the people around you. Like people are in public hanging out because they're open to chatting with others usually. And so just approaching someone with the energy of friendship and warmth does wonders. So I hope that's helpful.
I have a suggestion for that. Get a dog.
Yeah. Or yeah, have a dog and literally people will never stop talking to you ever.
Otis is like the best icebreaker ever. Like I don't even have to make an attempt. Like, you know, Otis just talks to everyone. So by default, I have to talk to them.
Yeah.
It's the best. Yeah, it's really great.
That's so
Stanley
weird.
asked, how does Jillian suggest planning for scenarios where one gets blown off?
Ooh, okay. And so again, I'm going to go with the assumption that this is something around friendship. And I recently taught a full course on mindfulness and dating, and the week on rejection seemed to be the most powerful for folks. And so an invitation that I'll offer is when you get blown off for a plan, notice if the narrative in your head is I'm being rejected. Like this person is rejecting me, because that is a world apart from, oh, I feel disappointed. And it is so human and normal to feel disappointed if someone makes a plan with you and then they ghost you or say they can't make it. Continue to feel disappointed. That's so normal. the important thing is to notice if you're feeling rejected. Like, oh, because this person couldn't hang out with me, I'm bad. Like, this person is turning me down. They're saying I'm not good. They're saying I'm not worth it. Notice if those are the thoughts in your mind. And first of all, like we were just talking about, journal what you're thinking, and just remember that you are worth spending time with. And if this is someone who they're doing this consistently, or maybe you've never met them before and they're blowing you off and you're not going to see them, to just hold in your mind, I don't want to spend time with someone who doesn't want to spend time with me. Like, simple as that. You're like, oh, okay, good. Well, if they don't want to spend time with me, then why would I want to spend time with them? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I know, so much easier said than done. So much easier said than done. And those are just some good things to track it the next time if that happens.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I might be mispronouncing the name here. Cher asked, I get housebound most of the week due to a painful spinal disability. How can I meet new friends?
Ooh, okay. There are so many incredible virtual communities that exist right now, especially having been developed during COVID. So I'll just shout out a few. One is called Connection Club. I think it happens twice a week, run by the author Kat Velos. She's a colleague of mine who also wrote a book about friendship. And it's part introvert time, so part time to do crafts or write letters, and part extrovert time where it's facilitated small group conversations. So great way to meet kind people in a facilitated way. Two other recommendations, if you like kind of intellectual conversations or debate, stuff like that, there's a group called Interintellect. The company's Interintellect. The name of their events, they're called salons, but they have one or more event every day. They're 3 hours long, and they're like really nerdy deep dives into a topic. And they also have kind of like virtual friend matchmaking events and actual romantic matchmaking sometimes. That's a great virtual community. And the last one is called the Stoa, and they are a similarly kind of like nerdy group, but they also have breath work, they have authentic relating, and they also have kind of more intellectual style debates. And they have virtual events every day of the week as well. So those are some kind of baseline recommendations: Connection Club, Interintellect, and the Stoa, that hopefully will help you meet a lot of really great people virtually.
Thank you for those recommendations. Allie asked, how can I heal my body, mind, and spirit?
Casual question, Lord.
This might have been one of the questions from your prompts.
Oh, that's good. I like that. How can I heal my body, mind, and spirit? Well, I mean, this is a huge question for any person. And the biggest thing I will say, I'm going to sound like such a hippie, but this is just what I believe. It's just to notice the energy of everything you're putting into your life. Like, notice, like, how does the music I listen to make me feel? How do the TV shows I listen to make me feel? How do my friends make me feel? My job, my romantic partner, and track, what are the things that light you up? What are the things that you just feel better in your body after you do them, after you talk to them, after you listen to them? And even at the end of every day, this is a practice I like to do if I'm feeling stuck, is to make a list of what nourished me today and what drained me, and just track those things and try and incorporate more of the things that nourish you. And even if you just write the list, kind of unconsciously, you're going to try and stop doing the things that drain you. Because after 10 days, if literally every day you're like, talking to this friend drained me, talking to this friend drained me, talking to this friend drained me, you're going to get tired of that. and you're going to want to bring it over to a different column. So that is one tip for a very broad topic.
Thank you. That was a great tip. I love making that list. I mean, I love making lists. So that's a really great list to make. And I'm pretty sure that when you make that list, you'll probably realize things that are draining that you didn't know.
Oh yeah.
Were draining or had that effect on you.
Totally.
We have time for one more question. Anonymous asked, I'm having trouble reconnected after being fully vaccinated. My friends are all married, while I have been divorced for 25 years. We are all over 70 and vaccinated. My closest friends, children, and grandchildren are long distance. How can I get them to call, Zoom, or meet with me without making them feel guilty that they haven't done so?
Ooh, I really like this question, and I appreciate this honesty, because I know a lot of people are in similar situations of wanting to connect and not wanting to guilt people into connecting. And so one thing I can offer is to have a standing invitation, and that could be, hey, every Thursday at 5 p.m., I'm going to do an hour-long Zoom conversation. It could be, we're going to play a game. We're going to ask each other some questions from this question card deck. We're going to do a book club. Whatever would be fun for you to do every week and have people pop in and out. And consistently just invite those people and say, I would love to see you. It'd be really fun to have you there. And also, and I know that there's this tender fear of guilting someone. I don't think you're guilting someone if you just genuinely say, hey, it would feel really good to me if we could connect. Like, I'd love it. This is great for asking people for things, is to say, I'd love it if, because you're not saying you need something. You're saying, I would love it if we could connect. I'd love it if we could have a conversation every other week, for example. And just know that people are in their full agency to say no, but you can't get what you don't ask for.
I agree with that 100%. Always ask for what you want. And, after listening to your response and the question, I also feel like, do you feel guilty, or like, is it that you are holding on to this feeling that you're making them feel guilty, or do they actually feel guilty? Because I feel like that can also be, part of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
How do you let go of that feeling that, that you think you're making them feel guilty, but you're really not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so thank you so much for today, Jillian. Thank you for everything that you shared on getting curious, the deep dive inwards, and then spreading the love, and for answering all our questions. We loved having you, and we loved all your great insight and all, and your honesty and transparency and vulnerability. And thank you for sharing your story as well. Before we go, I'm going to share 2 quick slides, if I can get my computer to work. Here it is. Okay. So for those of you that are interested in connecting with other people who share similar interests, we have a promotion going on now where you can start a group and you'll get 50% off your first subscription. You can be a part of this promotion. All you have to do is go to meetupsavings.com. And we launched a podcast at the beginning of the year with our CEO, David Siegel, called Keep Connected. You can actually learn more about Jillian. She was in our podcast. You can learn more about Jillian. Her episode is Beating Loneliness Through Community Building. So we encourage you to please subscribe to our podcast at meetuppodcast.com. And I guess I should have asked you first to pull out your phone and scan the QR code. So I'm going to give you 3 seconds. To pull out your phone and scan the QR code and check out our podcast and check out Jillian's episode. For those that either came in late or that had to leave early, we will offer a recording and a recap of this event on our blog. You can access it on meetup.com/blog. Again, thank you so much for your time, Jillian, and thank you for everyone that tuned in. Have a great day and happy Friday Eve. Bye-bye.
Wow, thank you all.